All right. First up, the big news that overshadowed everything, whether Microsoft wanted it to or expected it to or not, was, Mitchell.
Y'all hear that Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, it's going to be an Xbox exclusive, exclusively on Xbox exclusive.
Boom. Right? Is that what,
Big
that what they
news.
say?
You're saying it's exclusive.
It's exclusive.
Wait, what?
Except
Exclusive?
It's not.
It's timed exclusive.
It's a timed exclusive. Of course it's a timed
all these.
exclusive.
But
Every time you hear the word exclusive from now until the rest of time about a video game, assume that that is meaningless.
Right, because first-party games are inherently exclusive, so they never call them exclusive.
Yes.
Like, Halo 5 isn't an Xbox One exclusive. It's Halo 5.
Right. It's an
Done.
Xbox
End of
game.
sentence.
Got it. Done. Rise of the Tomb Raider, a third-party game from a company who probably sold more copies on the platform that franchise was born on, and on the console that has sold
You mean
more.
the PC?
Yeah, classic PC. Good point.
Zing!
PlayStation is doing significantly better than Xbox One right now. Why would Crystal Dynamics and Square opt out of that forever?
So
That does not make sense.
So this set the world on fire immediately. It trended on Twitter. It was I made one tweet that got the most favorites and retweets I've ever gotten on my account ever from that. And what I said, and I stand by this, is that Rise of the Tomb Raider is an Xbox exclusive, and the only people that serves are Microsoft and the petty version of fanboys, which are not the kind that listen to the show.
Yeah.
We have the good people.
Yeah, I mean, you could
of
be
the
a fan of
podcast.
something and not be a jerk
The
about
people that take pleasure in lording their thing over someone else and their thing.
it. We got this game and you didn't. Well,
Right.
those guys got their comeuppance
So,
12 hours
Here's
later.
the reason that I say this, because people are like, well, what about this game or that game? So let's use I was going to say Titanfall, but even actually let's use Scalebound as an example, and even more current example. Scalebound is a game, Platinum Games, not a big developer. Their games generally don't sell mega huge,
Despite being awesome.
Yeah. Right. They're always critically acclaimed, but they've never had that commercial success. Scalebound probably doesn't get made unless Microsoft is the one that funds
Absolutely.
it. It's also a new IP. It's not something that people have been playing in a series for a long time and now have suddenly taken away from them. My problem with Tomb Raider is that you have a series that just got so successfully rebooted. I mean, against all odds. Most reboots are garbage, as Mitch would say.
Oh, man.
Garbage or not garbage?
Garbage.
It was
Garbage.
not garbage on the scale of 1 to garbage.
Correct.
Tomb Raider was so good last year.
Was it?
Yeah.
You're not a fan, Bob?
I haven't sit on the floor, but I haven't.
Get on that microphone, Bobby,
I
so we
haven't
can
sitting
hear
on
you.
the floor, but I have not cracked it open.
You haven't even played it.
It's
No, it's
sitting on the
good.
floor in the plastic.
The story gets a little dumb for my taste, but
Boy,
the
does
game, the game is fantastic.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's smart. It's a really great kind of way to reboot a franchise
Yes.
and a character, and Camilla Luddington is awesome as Lara Croft.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so this is a game that came out on the PlayStation 3, and then as part of, every week we talk about $60 backwards compatibility with the whole, remake trend and the upporting thing. We had the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition hit in January for Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So this is a series that was gone for a while, against all odds, successfully rebooted. PlayStation fans have been playing it and enjoying it for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
On both PS3 and PS4, and now suddenly you're on the if you're Crystal Dynamics, the developer, and you're Square, you're on the precipice of you rebooted at the end of the last console generation, which is actually generally not seen as a viable strategy for a lot of publishers, because they're like, oh, people don't want new IP, even though it's not technically a new IP. Most new IPs and things tend to happen at the beginning of generations when people tend to be more open to buying this stuff, but they did it. Right, they did it, and now suddenly they're on the cusp of blowing up Tomb Raider into a
mega franchise.
Mega franchise, absolutely, and they're gonna cut off half or more, or slightly more than half of that market. Yeah, on a timed basis, but for all intents and purposes, for a lot more than that, because we know when Mass Effect, timed it ended up coming to PS3, but everybody always the mind share it becomes on Xbox. So this seems incredibly short-sighted of me, or short-sighted of Square to me. I mean, I get why Microsoft did it. Sure, it feels like this is a great game. I can get this exclusively on my machine. That's great, but This to me does not convince PlayStation gamers who maybe were playing Definitive Edition. This doesn't get them to, oh man, I got to go buy an Xbox One now. That just pisses me off.
Yeah, and
if I'm one of
ultimately,
them.
I think it's going to depend on the time. Depends on how long the exclusivity window is. If it's a year, they're going to lose out on sales because PlayStation people a year later are not going to care.
Right.
6 months later, 3 months later, maybe, spring 2015, Tomb Raider's a really great game to get for your PS4. But a year later in the holiday, there's no way.
Do you think, though that it could be that short? Like a 3-month or a 6-month period? Because to me, if it's 3 months or 6 months, if it's anything less than a year, then I don't think it was worth however much.
Why do it, right?
That's
Yeah,
the thing.
then why would they even do it?
If I'm a major third-party publisher with a major franchise, I don't want my game locked out of the other console for a year.
Should we call it now? Have the listeners put this bet in a wiki? When do you think Tomb Raider's coming out for PS4? If it launches in holiday 2015 for Xbox One, when does it hit PS4?
All right, and I have a specific prediction with regard to that.
Okay.
Just real quick. I think it's going to come out in October of 2015 because
Okay.
I believe, obviously Microsoft has to be committing a lot of first-party marketing push, which is significant to this game next holiday. So I think it's going to be October, and then they're going to shift the eye of marketing Sauron to Halo 5, which I feel like will come out in November.
Yep.
So I think this is going to be an October game. I say it's maybe exclusive through the first quarter of 2016, which means I think April 2nd.
Yeah.
This game's out.
Yeah, mine
So
is
barely
on PS4.
even 6 months.
My guess is 6 months to the day.
I don't have a guess. I have this kind of crazy theory, which I don't
Hit
know
me.
if is accurate at all. But in the article where Phil Spencer clarified what he meant by exclusive when it comes to Tomb Raider,
We didn't buy them. We don't own the IP.
yeah, he said something like that. But in that same quote, if you keep reading on, he alluded to games that made their way from Xbox One to PC and cited those
Dead
as
Rising 3
exactly
and Rise.
Rise were the two ones he brought up. Neither of which ever made it to PS4, as far as I'm aware.
Correct.
So I still have this theory, we may not see it on PS4. Maybe.
There is no world in which this game is not a
has to.
PlayStation 4 game.
Like I said, I
2016.
think it's a
Yeah.
long
No
shot
way.
theory, but I do still have that
I think
inkling.
it's just Phil not wanting to acknowledge other, Assassin's Creed or other PlayStation games.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just he doesn't even want to give the vague. He uses those specific examples on purpose, so as not to give any hint that he picked two games that specifically never came to PS4, so that people don't even interpret his quote as, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's definitely going to come out."
He
what
also
you're saying
those
is-
games because those are games that he wants people to pay for.
That
So what
too.
you're saying is Phil Spencer's a lot smarter than me.
Yeah.
That's clearly
Yeah.
impossible.
Phil
so.
Spencer's a lot smarter than all of us, or we'd be running Xbox.
That's true. Phil is a bright man.
Mhm.
I mean, Bobby, how do you see this?
I've always been on the fence about just with the time exclusives. For example, with Call of Duty, how they always do the DLC, stuff.
yeah.
It's like just put it all out at the same time for both Xbox and PlayStation. I understand they have deals in place, but I just think it's not fair as a gamer. You want to play that, and if I'm a fan, I'm going to always hate having to be, especially a PlayStation fan. I'm always be, like you say, pissed about that because I'm waiting to play this just like everyone else. But now you're telling me I have to wait six months to a year. Like you say, down the line, I'm moving on to something else. I may not even buy it at all.
So the theory, one of the theories floated out here is that. So first of all, I think the Square executive that took Phil's offer here is probably the same one that set stupidly high, crazy, unreachable
Yeah.
expectations
Yeah.
for Tomb Raider, and then called it disappointing when it didn't
7
get there.
million units
Yeah,
sold.
after
What a
some-
failure.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's probably one and the same person.
Yeah.
Number one, but number two, yeah, it's bad when the damage control letter from the studio head, Daryl Gallagher, goes out at the same time the announcement
Yep.
does, where he was like,
I'm so sorry.
I had multiple people tweeting me, wow, this really felt like the Don Matrick thing from last E3 where he's like, well, we have a console for people that aren't online and it's called the 360. Where Daryl Gallagher, the studio head of Crystal Dynamics, developer of Tomb Raider, said, well, we have a game this fall for PlayStation gamers. It's called
Temple of
Osiris, and it has
jeez.
nothing to do with, it's totally not the same game at
Yeah.
all. And it's just like, yeah, when you're having to do the damage control right out of the gate,
They had the foresight to write that thing ahead of time.
again, I get why Phil made this deal.
Mhm.
I have a lot of respect for Phil. Everybody
Yeah,
knows that.
it's
I'm
a
a big
great
Phil
deal
fan. Yeah,
for Phil.
it's a huge get for him. But I just don't get this. I think it's short-sighted of Square and the long-term potential of Tomb Raider as a new again franchise.
Do you think they'll back Tomb Raider in the same way that Sony is backing Destiny? Do you think like Tomb Raider opens the Microsoft conference at E3 next year?
I'd say there's a high chance of that. I mean, Call of Duty always seems to. If they keep that arrangement going, I don't see that changing. But
good point.
No, I think you're right. They'll get that same level of treatment.
Again, what would be the point if that wasn't right? Like, why make the deal if you weren't gonna?
God, next year is going to be awesome.
Oh, it's
Tomb
20,
Raider
20 so
Black Ops 3 probably.
I don't want to
Oh
get.
my lord. Okay, go. Sorry.
Sorry, Bobby's.
That got Bobby going.
Bobby's bathing suit area just tingled a little bit.
Yes, sir.
But the theory out there is, so we try to understand, if you're Square, why do you take this? Number one, okay, you're going to get the marketing push. I wonder, do you think they made this deal they took Microsoft's money and marketing push because of Uncharted? Do they really think that they were going to get buried by Uncharted, which is a game obviously inspired by Tomb Raider originally, and they're in the same genre, but because Phil can trumpet this now as his Uncharted to an extent. But it's like I'm trying to understand this from Square's perspective.
I don't know if that's really a view for Phil, right? Because on PlayStation, Tomb Raider kind of cannibalizes Uncharted, if you look at it that way. Like, if you assume that this is the equivalent of their Uncharted, then on Sony's platform, where it will presumably exist in 2016, it's doing the exact same thing.
I don't know. I mean,
Sean Finnegan deep in thought.
Yes,
yeah. Well,
sir.
I wanted to reference an article that I read earlier today. Someone tweeted at me about Polygon wrote that because it's exclusive doesn't necessarily mean that it'll sell less. Like, obviously being on more platforms gives you a better chance or more potential to sell more copies. But, we've seen with big games like Halo and Gears of War before it that being on one platform doesn't necessarily impact your sales. So there is the possibility out there that with the focused marketing push from Microsoft and it being featured and sort of promoted as an Xbox exclusive that it seems to Square, like, it is possible that Square saw this as an opportunity to capitalize on a more focused and more engaged audience,
right? Maybe
as opposed to a wider net that would be a little less focused, Yeah. So I mean, the possibility is still there that it could be a great move for them. Like, maybe they know something we don't.
I mean, I had a number of people tweet me and like, man, why can't you just let us have this one? Let us Xbox fans, let's just enjoy it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I mean, it's great. It's going to be on Xbox. That's great news for everybody listening to this show that already has an Xbox. But at the same time, again, we're just questioning it from Square's point of view more than anything else. Like, it's baffling.
Just trying to understand the whole concept. I wish we can get in there and just see the memo, see all the bullet points from the presentation of why this is going to work. Because for the most part, you can say from Microsoft's point of view, good job.
Is the check and the marketing push that Square is going to get from Microsoft enough to offset the sales that they would have gotten on PlayStation?
Right, because you have to assume, like, let's say this game is enormously successful and
10
would have
million.
sold, like 5 million on Xbox One.
Right.
You have to assume that they are expecting 4 to 5 million that they would have
Equally
got
well.
on PlayStation 4 on Xbox. How do they get that?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well, maybe they still will, is the thing, right? Like, if it is 6 months,
maybe they can have it
They
both
can
ways.
have, exactly. They can get the hyper-specific, focused marketing push and do great sales on one platform, and then expect that to resonate to other platforms later on. I think the point stands that if it's a year, then maybe that you'll see that effect diminish. But I don't know. The aftershock of really big games like that, it's something to be trifled.
The other thing to look at it too, to finish this up, is that an exclusive is usually enhanced somehow, or really it takes advantage of that platform. I can virtually guarantee you this will not take advantage of the Xbox One in any special way. This is a marketing deal.
Connect Bose.
Oh, man.
Hold on, I'm going to stab you in the neck with this pen.
Just count me out if that's the case.
But it's like, it's going to be, when it inevitably does release on PlayStation 4 later, it's going to be the exact same game.
Yeah.
Exact same game. There will be nothing about the Xbox version that, so I don't know, it's kind of baffling. I mean, and let's to now segue into the next topic. I just feel like whether Microsoft planned for this or not, this took the focus away from some really other cool, some cool things that Microsoft had going on at Gamescom.
Yeah,